Welcome to Beat School. I'm Chris B. Thank you all for listening to us, watching our video. Again, thank you for our subscriptions. If you're new to our channel, please click our subscription button below. If you like our content, we'll be providing you with more content. So let's go ahead and get into our first topic of today. Our topic of today is going to be the top 5 bad habits that students have that they don't realize they have. Top 5 bad habits. So the first bad habit is going to be waking up late. Now, when you wake up late, you're already starting your day off wrong. You're starting in a frantic. You have a greater risk of being late to class. It's almost like a snowball effect. One bad thing happens and then something else bad happens. You forget your coffee. Then you have to go get coffees from somewhere else or tea. You spill it on yourself and you're late to class. You miss a test and then you get a bad grade. It's a huge snowball effect. So what you want to do is to wake up earlier. You can prevent that snowball effect from happening from waking up that much earlier. Even if it's 15 minutes earlier or 10 minutes earlier, waking up earlier is very critical. Now, a way that I used to do it is I would set my alarm clock for 30 minutes before the time that I wanted to wake up. So it allowed me time to hit the snooze button maybe once or twice. And when I woke up, I still woke up earlier than I expected. Also, another thing is, if you start off being late now, you're training your mind, you're training yourself to learn how to be late early in the game. That makes sense. So you training yourself to be late in college, earlier on in life. So now later on in life, when it comes to you having a job or having some responsibility, you're used to being late. So you don't want to start that bad habit. That's your first bad habit. Your second bad habit. So you have students that are in class and they're taking notes, they're listening, and they're participating in class, but there's no understanding of what they've written on the paper. Why? Well, for one, after you've taken your notes, you want to review those notes in class. Lots of times students don't review them in class and after class. You can review the notes in class right after you're finished, or you can review your notes in class right afterwards. Maybe you're taking a break, sitting on a bench, just looking at your notes, trying to figure out, okay, what exactly did we cover on the topic that we mentioned? Or even if it's that same day later on in your dorm or in the library, you want to make sure that you look at your notes right after class. And again, that's the bad habit that a lot of students nowadays fail to do. They don't look at their notes right after class. The longer you go without reviewing your information, the harder it will be to retrieve some of those things that you may have had taught to you in class. For instance, if I'm teaching my students on the concept of glycolysis, and I'm using analogies and acronyms to explain glycolysis to them. Let's say they forgot to write it down. Well, if they review the information right after class, they may remember, oh, Professor such and such said whatever it is as it relates to the topic of glycolysis. Now, if they're reviewing that same information 2 weeks after I taught that same lecture, now that information is running into other class lecture information and you lose information. So you don't want to lose information. So in a way to prevent that from happening is to go ahead and just review your lecture information right after class. You don't have to take an hour or 2 hours. You can just spend 5 or 10 minutes just looking over that information. You can think of it just like a fruit or a vegetable or any type of food. You want to eat it while it's fresh. You want to take advantage of it while it's fresh. You don't want to wait until the information is rotten. The longer you go without reviewing it, the more likely that information will be rotten and you won't be able to use it. You'll have to throw it away just like you would throw away any type of food that's gone rotten. Next, studying every day. Students don't study every single day. This is the next bad habit. Number 3, not studying every day. Now, I kind of think of it as a myth that you have to study 30 minutes per every hour. I like to tell my students, as long as you look at the information, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, but having consistent review of whatever it is that you're trying to learn every single day is going to be major when it comes down to you wanting to set aside a huge block of time so that you can study. You want to be able to have the information very, very fresh on your mind. And you'll do that if you have some consistency with that information. Have you ever heard of the saying, how do you consume an elephant? There's one answer for that says you can consume the elephant bit by bit, or you can consume the elephant in one large chunk. So I would recommend going by your information, consuming your information, learning your information bit by bit. Because if you learn your information bit by bit, it'll be easier to manage when it comes time to, again, you studying your tests. You'll be more familiar with the information. So that's less hard work you have to put in. Also, again, when you're more familiar with the information, you're better able to do well on your tests, because you can remember certain concepts or acronyms or analogies that you went over when you were in class. I'll give you another analogy. So you're trying to court a female or a male. You're interested in having a relationship with a female or male. You really want to impress them. Would you rather spend an entire day just studying everything about that person? Or would you rather take a few minutes every single day, just a few minutes, to learn something new about that person? I would assume that most of you would choose taking just a few minutes every single day. It's more genuine. It's more natural. You know, when you take it bit by bit and you're learning information bit by bit and reviewing it, you don't have to force feed yourself when it comes down to test time. And this leads us into our next topic, which is cramming for tests. This is about studying harder versus studying smarter. A lot of students cram for tests. This is a common issue across the board. When you don't study bit by bit, you put yourself in the cram category. And because you want to avoid cramming as much as possible, because again, you're going to confuse concepts from one class with concepts from another class. Everything just gets jumbled. Think of it from this perspective. So if you broke your leg, God forbid, you broke your leg and you need surgery on your leg, would you rather have the surgeon who completed school in 2 months to operate on you? Or would you rather the surgeon who completed school in 5 years operate on you? The 5-year option, right? Because of course they've spent more time learning their craft and focusing on what they need to do to help fix your leg. The same thing applies when it comes to your studies. You don't want to spend just one day working on the information for a test. You want to be consistent, take it bit by bit, and be more familiar with your information. Because when it comes to test time, you'll do that much better. And also, too, you have to remember the purpose of whatever it is that you're pursuing, whatever major that you have, whatever field of study you're looking into, the focus isn't just to pass your classes. Your focus should be mastery. And again, in order to have mastery, you have to be able to be very familiar with the information that you're trying to learn. Because if you don't learn it appropriately, when you're exposed to it and you're forcing it on yourself, when you're force feeding your mind with information, you don't own the information. So when it comes time for you to apply that information, you're setting yourself up for failure. Now, when it comes to cramming, sometimes I understand you have to cram because you have so many classes and some class has to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to cramming. If you have to cram, I urge you to look at my book. Again, it's right here. It's entitled WeBeatSchool. I've devised a way for you to look at PowerPoints with up to 300 plus slides in each PowerPoint, and to look at documents, books, and be able to study that information 3 days before your test and be able to understand that information. But I used a particular technique and method so that I can develop association with words and with concepts to help me to utilize it when you have no other choice. So you'll be able to utilize that. And I only advise you to utilize that strategy when you have no other choice. You know, if you have a significantly large course load and you just have to some class has to be the class that you have to cram for, I would highly suggest you look for my book and utilize that technique and strategy to master those classes. The last bad habit that I've seen in the academic realm is going to be not planning effectively with our calendars. This is one of the most detrimental bad habits, not planning in your calendar. You have to plan your tests. You have to plan your assignments. You have to plan your quizzes. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Poor performance promotes pain. So you want to avoid pain as much as possible by preparing properly. Now, I'll give you an example of what happened to me when I was in school. This is kind of funny. Not funny actually. But so I don't know what I was doing, but I guess I was studying for other classes and I failed to write my test date down for one of my psychology classes. And I remember coming into class, I was just a few minutes late too. And when I came into class, I realized that everybody had Scantrons and they were all quietly writing on their Scantrons. And I thought to myself, I know this isn't a test. Oh my God, I didn't study. It was the worst feeling ever. I ended up failing that test. So, in order to prevent yourself from having to make those bad grades up because you didn't fail to properly plan, please write it down. Put it in your calendar. When you write something down, you commit to it. You tend to commit to it a lot more than if you didn't write it down. Write it down. Put it in your calendar. Most phones nowadays, or almost all phones nowadays, have calendars in them. So at the very least, just type it in your calendar. You'll do a lot better in terms of preparing whatever it is that you're studying for, that you have to learn or that you have to complete, if you write it down or make sure it's in your calendar. And not only should you write down the academic things that you have to complete, you can write down some of the more fun things. If you have a wedding to go to, if you want to go to the movies or a sports game or anything that you'd like to do, any fun that you'd like to have, you want to plan that out too, because you don't want anything interfering with the time that you set aside to have fun. Again, if you want to play hard, you have to plan hard. So that's going to conclude our video for today. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for listening to us. You can check more of our content out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at WeBeatSchool. Check out our website at bschoolcollege.com. Again, click our subscription button below if you like our content. Leave us a comment. And thank you. Have fun beating school.